At some point, people are going to have to start coming to the realization, start digesting the fact that America is becoming the most right it's ever been. This is the greatest cultural shift we've ever seen.
And the craziest part is I'm not even sure if America's becoming more right or the left has just gone so far left and pushed so many people away that this is where we are now. Like, they succeeded in their task and in their goal, by the way. Their whole plan was to call everybody a right-wing extremist. They called Theo Von a right-wing podcast. But either way, their whole plan was to call everybody a right-wing extremist until they got to the point where they are now. Your strategy can't be to make enemies. That shouldn't be your strategy, and that's what their whole strategy was.
We went from in the 2010s, when Barack Obama was president, people literally never thinking that we will ever have a Republican as president again. And even fast forward to 2020, where Trump got booted out of the White House, people saying that the Republican Party needs to turn the page, they need to become more moderate, they need to get rid of Trump, and Trump's never going to sniff the presidency again, to 2025 and late 2025, where you now, majority of the people, especially our age, know the name Nick Fuentes. And he's popular. He resonates with people. If you told anyone that back in 2020, they would look at you like you were crazy. The fact is that guy is the evidence that we have become so right-wing. We have shifted the culture to this way. Who is Nick Fuentes? If you don't know who Nick Fuentes is now, in 1 month you're going to know who he is, because you cannot go on Instagram, you cannot go on TikTok, you cannot go on X without seeing a clip from this guy's show. That's how popular he is. In fact, I'm so confident that the people that are watching this video that don't know who he is, if I showed you a clip of him or a video of him or a picture of him, you know exactly who he is.
Yeah, what he's saying here is objectively true. Majority of the country voted for Trump, so this is what majority of the country wanted. Even to add to that, almost every demographic voted more Republican than they ever have this election. And to be honest, I think a lot of it came down to the social issues. I'm sure people are going to be like, but look at what Trump's doing with foreign policy or foreign trade or the economy. All of those things are abstract concepts to a lot of people, but the easiest thing to have a take on, the easiest thing to talk about is the social issues. And I think the left just lost the social battle. I think they became too diluted and too disconnected from what the average American was actually concerned about. And then to add to that, Charlie Kirk was killed and people celebrated. Now you stuck with people like Nick Fuentes and Andrew Wilson. The people who thought that what Charlie Kirk was saying was hateful, wait until you hear Nick Fuentes, and you will be hearing from him very soon.
That's how popular he is now.
Yeah, it's true.
This is who our country is becoming.
Yeah.
And whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, that voice resonates with Americans. He is becoming so mainstream that people like Tucker Carlson are about to do an interview with him. His podcast, he's banned on everything. But his podcast was unbanned on Spotify. For whatever reason, the platform decided to unban it. I don't know why. I don't know why they decided to ban it again. But they unbanned it for a couple days.
But it's interesting because Nick Fuentes actually got blacklisted from almost everything, even Airbnb, when he was 18 years old, because he was talking about Israel. That's essentially what it was. So for him to be 25 now, 7 years in the game, still having the passion, still doing his show every single day takes a lot of grit. And one of the most important things that he talks about is censorship coming from Israel. So to censor him on a platform like Spotify, you're just adding to his message. And by the way, I'm making an is claim, not an ought claim. And if you can't differentiate between those two things, this is probably going to be a long video for you. America is definitely becoming more right-wing than ever. And Nick Fuentes is about to start making some major appearances because the people want to hear what he has to say. The country that Nick Fuentes criticizes is actually bipartisan. Both the people on the left and right, every time they're in power, they still cater to and kneel to this specific group of people. This group of people tries to censor people like him, and then what you see is this group of people has influence now in YouTube, and they have influence on TikTok, and now the juice emoji has been banned on TikTok. That could be a rumor. Somebody might have to verify that, but that's what I heard. I do know that they did invest in TikTok, and they now recently invested into YouTube, and now people want to crack down on anti-Semitism. But I always think that it's interesting when people want to crack down on anti-Semitism, yet nobody has a problem with people repeating the N N-word. It seems like a group of people get special treatment that even a protected class like black people don't get. And I just think that that's very interesting.
And his podcast skyrocketed to #1 over Joe Rogan. I'm going to say that again. Joe Rogan, if you know how big Joe Rogan is, you know how big of a deal this is. His podcast was #1 in Spotify over Joe Rogan, and then Spotify rebanned him again after a couple days. That's how popular he is.
Not smart.
That's how much he resonates with Americans today, especially the young people. This is just to show you that people are sick and tired of the powers that be, Republican and Democrat, because Nick Fuentes is neither. The powers that be have pushed the limits. People are sick of it. People don't want to, when you've put us through the COVID hysteria, when you tell people that they are anti-Semitic for just having the simple belief that we should not be killing women and children needlessly, when you tell people that you can't be grounded in reality, that you have to accept the fantasy reality that women can play in men's sports and it's totally fine. Or men can play in women's sports, vice versa, and it's totally fine.
And that was one of the bigger mistakes that they made. They started to try to crack down on misinformation, things they considered to be misinformation. And what that did was showed a lot of people that they were very biased in the people that they cracked down on. So now people are starting to look into other people that have been banned for misinformation. And avoiding these conversations isn't going to help. You have to be willing to combat them. Or Israel specifically is going to lose the American people. And you can already see that in the statistics now. Something like 50% of conservatives now think that our alliance with Israel is not a good thing. And I think it's like 78% of Democrats. And I don't think that Israel is going to be able to censor their way out of this one. So they're going to have to combat these conversations, regardless of if you agree or disagree. You have to be willing to combat in the arena of debate.
We are going to bail out the banks in the top 1%, and we're not going to look after the hardworking Americans, and we're going to do H-1B visas and bring in a ton of people when Americans could well do the job. When you tell people that there's nothing we can do about, that they got to send their money to Ukraine and to Israel to fight foreign wars, and we're going to have to fight all these wars, and we're not going to do anything to help our fellow neighbors and our fellow man. When you tell people there's nothing you can do to make our cities cleaner, there's just everything. People are fed up and frustrated. And what do you get when that happens? When you kill a man who is as moderate as they come for having civil debate and dialogue with people, and you shoot him in front of everyone to see, in front of his wife and his kids, right in the neck, for everyone to see. Pretty modest views. People are frustrated. You get Nick Fuentes, who is accumulation of that frustration, who, whether you like it or not, is the most important voice in America and the voice of America. Because nobody...
All right, now. You're using both hands right now. Calm down, buddy. You're using both hands, okay? It's okay. Just let the brother cook.
Nobody resonates with Americans clearly like he does now, or else, despite being banned on almost everything, his voice carries. People see him all the time. People want to hear what he has to see, what he says on every topic. That tells you something. That no matter how much they tried to censor this guy, there's no point of it anymore. There's no point. That is the power of the frustration, of the accumulation, how much they've pushed these limits, how much the powers that be have pushed the limits, that we get this now. And it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
I think a big part of it, too, is that crippling debt ruined the economy and the party is over, and people are looking at the dust right now and going, what have we done? What have we been allowing over all these years because we were so obsessed with comfort and the things that being materialistic can get us? I think that it's easier to eat your shit sandwich when you have a livable wage. When people can't afford to live, they start looking for answers.
To see what people are liking. I have chicks in my life that don't know anything about politics, that are liking Nick Fuentes reels. Do you know how crazy that sounds? I never thought I would hear the day I say that. The fact that that's coming out of my mouth is ludicrous, but it's true. And you're blackpilling. Just remember that. You're blackpilling. It's crazy. It's crazy times we're living in.
Yeah, I don't understand why people are blackpilling. There's going to be a huge cultural shift, whether you like it or not. I think transgenderism has declined, or the number of identifying transgender people has declined by 50% in the last 2 years. A lot of this stuff is starting to go away because it was impractical and it doesn't work, especially the social issue. As far as like the Israel stuff, they're just going to have to start to combat these conversations with good influencers, because the disinformation and the blacklisting and the banning of people is only adding to their point. People want answers, and whether you like that or not, it's just the truth. Let me know in the comments below if this video is a W or L, and give it an HBO special. That's Help Brother Out special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. Till next time.